The tensions are also high with the police. So Jonathan Mattingly, who was the first officer who was through the door, through Breonna Taylor's apartment, he goes in there, he gets shot, and then he writes this bizarre email over this. It just came out on September 22nd, so this was yesterday. So Jonathan Mattingly is a sergeant for the LMPD, and he writes this bizarre email that I want to read with you just to show sort of what the police are thinking and how they're communicating, because this is always interesting to me. You know, the law enforcement, sometimes the way that I see them approach their job and their lives and how they're operating seems to me like they think they're in the middle of a war zone and they're fighting a holy war, or they're doing something that is almost at a different level or more important than the rest of the things that we're doing. You know, they're heroes in their minds. They're heroes to a lot of people. They do a lot of heroic things, but just the fact that you're an officer, in my opinion, doesn't make you a hero any more than being a lawyer just happens to make you a hero, or a firefighter happens to make you a hero. Just because you have a profession, that does not make you a hero. Doing heroic things makes you a hero. And when I read this email, it's a bizarre email, but let's go through it. And this is what he sends, it looks like, to the entire Louisville Metro Police Department. This is his email. You can see here that he sends this on 9/22 at 2:09 in the morning. So early in the morning yesterday, this email goes out to everybody, all Louisville Metro PD, all sworn officers. He says, "Hey family, I'm not here to give you a rah-rah. You got this speech. I'm not here to tell you that you signed up to help this community and to keep your head up. I'm here to tell you I'm sorry you have to go through this. I'm sorry your families have to go through this. I'm sorry the mayor, Amy Hess, Chief Conrad, failed us all in epic proportions for their own gain and to cover their asses." So, you know, right out of the gate, he's just flipping everything on everybody else. Everybody else is the problem. We didn't do anything wrong in this particular case. He says to all of the officers, presumably this is going to literally every single LMPD officer. He says, "You do not deserve to be in this position, the position that allows thugs to get in your face and yell, curse, and degrade you, throw bricks, bottles, urine, and expect you to do nothing. It goes against everything we were taught in the academy." I don't know what that means, but I'm going to guess that in the academy, I've never been through the academy, but I'm going to guess that they talk to you about de-escalation and about restraint, you know, about restraining yourself and not just going in and fighting back. If somebody curses at you and degrades you, you have to be the bigger person. That's why you're an officer. You're higher trained. You're trained not to get involved and let your emotions take advantage of you. But that's not what this guy says. And his rant just continues to go on. He says, "The position that if you make a mistake during one of the most stressful times in your career, the department and the FBI," who he's about to blast right here, he says, "the department and the FBI, who aren't cops and would piss their pants if they had to hold the line, go after you for civil rights violations. Your civil rights mean nothing, but the criminal has total autonomy." So he is literally, the FBI, we're going to learn, is still involved in this case. They're conducting a big part of the investigation. The investigation was sort of bifurcated. So it sounds like the Attorney General for Kentucky took over a lot of the shooting investigation and really what happened once the officers were inside Breonna Taylor's house, but they're missing part of what led up to that. So in other words, they're missing the warrant portion of the case. What happened with the warrant? Who signed it? Why were they at this residence to begin with? There's some indication that they were at the wrong residence. They had the wrong guy. And anyways, that was all being handled by the FBI. Why was the warrant executed? That's not part of the Attorney General's purview here. And so this guy is blasting the FBI. He's blasting the department. And he's saying that they're going after them for civil rights violations. Okay. So he says the criminal has total autonomy, but your civil rights as an officer means nothing. He goes on. He says, "We all signed up to be police officers. We knew the risks and we were willing to take them, but we always assumed the city had your back. We wanted to do the right thing in the midst of an evil world to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Is he talking about Breonna Taylor? I don't know, because she has no criminal record as far as I know. She was just standing there. No indication she was holding a weapon, but she is now dead. She was not able to protect herself, but the cops killed her. These 3 cops killed her. He says, "We wanted to do the right thing in the midst of an evil world to protect those who cannot protect themselves, to enforce laws that make it possible to live in a peaceful society. We as a police do not care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever you identify with as this week," which is kind of a needle. in people. That's commentary. He's saying that people are changing identities and identifying as, multiple genders or whatever it is. He's kind of poking fun. He says, we aren't better than anyone. This is not an us against society, but it is good versus evil. And that type of language, I think, is very, very concerning, right? Law enforcement are there to deal with people, not evil people. Every single person that this cop pulled over for a traffic ticket wasn't evil, or for a DUI, or every other warrant that he searched, or whatever this officer's role was as a sergeant over the course of many years. He wasn't dealing with evil people. He wasn't dealing with people who were out there intending to break the law and murder people and rape everybody. There's certainly a subset of those people who, in my opinion, are probably mostly sick versus being evil. But this officer is viewing what he does on the road as good versus evil. And if you're in that type of a battle, if you're in a situation where you're dealing with evil, wouldn't you do anything humanly possible to defeat that evil? I mean, if you're dealing with something that is truly evil, are you so much worried about civil rights anymore? Are you worried about due process? Are you worried about equal protection? Or if you know that it's you are on the side of good, fighting the side of evil, maybe those things don't matter so much anymore. If you're fighting the devil, are you going to say, hey, you know what, before we engage in this epic battle between good versus evil, I got to read you your Miranda rights, or I need to check to make sure that this warrant was properly executed. You're not, all that stuff goes out the window. So this mindset is concerning to me. And it's also concerning that he actually sent this at 2:09 in the morning. There's been some evidence that his attorney actually confirmed that he sent this, but 2 in the morning is right around the time the bars close. And so who knows what this guy was doing at this moment, but he had to know this was going to leak. And he's positioning himself, he's framing this entire debate as good versus evil, which is just totally wrong in my mind. These guys are not in Fallujah. They're not in Iraq. They're not doing any of those things. They're on streets. They're on civilian streets. He goes on. He says, we are sons, daughters. We are husbands, wives. We're partners. We're brothers, sisters, dads, moms. We are human beings with flaws, feelings, and emotions, which I understand. And we've been very empathetic about that. He says, now I'm just rambling. But I want you to know I'm still proud to be a cop, to be an LMPD cop, no matter the ineptitude in upper command or the mayor's office. This is one of the greatest jobs on earth. With that being said, these next few days are going to be tough. They're going to be long. They're going to be frustrating. They will put a tremendous amount of stress on your families. Do not let your ego get you in a trick bag. Do not have your partner's 6, which is, your 6 if you're a clock, your 6 is your partner's back. De-escalate if possible. Do not give the pencil pushers at top. The ones who are too scared to hold the line. He's speaking about his own chain of command, his own officers in his own department. He's calling them too scared to hold the line, a reason to open investigations on you. The same ones that couldn't make decisions to save their lives. We need leaders that lead from the front and not in a room under the desk. Do what you need to do. Go home to your family. Just do it with dignity and make sure you can justify your actions, because everything down there is recorded. Make sure you can justify your actions. It's just telling people to be extra careful, extra cautious. Normally, I would tell you, you don't need to justify your actions, but make sure you can justify your actions because everything is being recorded. I don't know a lot of you guys, gals, but I felt love. Regardless of the outcome today or Wednesday, I know we did the legal, moral, and ethical thing that night. It's sad how good guys are demonized and criminals are canonized. And Breonna Taylor, to my knowledge, is not a criminal. I do not know that she has any criminal record. I have not seen that. She was an innocent young girl who was killed. So the fact that people are rallying around her is not canonization of some sort of a criminal. I understand that argument. I disagree with it on Daniel Prude and George Floyd and all of those other situations. But this one, unless I'm totally mistaken, I have not heard that she has had any criminal record of any real consequence. I could be wrong on that. You could fact check me there. But he goes on, again, this is going to all law enforcement. Put that aside for a while. Keep your focus. Do your jobs that you were trained and capable of doing. Don't put up with their shit. Go home and go home to those lovely families and relationships. So I don't know who he's talking about. I don't know if he's talking about the protesters. Don't know if he's talking about his chain of command. I wish I were there with you leading the charge. Be praying for your safety. Remember, you were just a pawn in the mayor's political game. I'm proof that they do not care about you or your family, and you are replaceable. Stay safe, do the right thing, so on and so forth. Now he says, now go be the warriors you are, but please be safe. None of these, quote, peaceful protesters are worth your career or freedom. Godspeed, boys and girls. That is from Sergeant Mattingly, who was part of the raiding crew who went into Breonna Taylor's apartment. He's telling his fellow officers, don't put up with their shit. If they're telling you how to do things out there, don't put up with their shit. Those pencil pushers, those people who couldn't hold a line to save their lives, they can't make a decision. Go be warriors. Go back out there and be warriors, because that's the mindset of this guy. That's the mindset of this. Obviously, he feels comfortable enough emailing this to the entire LMPD police department. I mean, if you are somebody of that mindset and you're breaking into somebody's apartment and you're just firing, bullets off, what this is indicative of somebody who is, I think, not in the right mindset to be an officer. It's just my opinion on it. Good versus evil. Somebody who thinks that everybody who tells him what to do is an idiot. Everything that he knows, he knows better than the other people who are higher up, who have more experience. Go be a warrior. We're fighting good versus evil. No wonder this guy fired a bunch of bullets back in that direction. But that's not going to be accounted for. This is the cultural problem that I talk about with law enforcement all the time. Technically, this guy's actions are going to be seen as being justified. We're going to get into Daniel Cameron's, the Attorney General. We're going to get into his statement today. But this is the cultural problem. Technically, Sergeant John Mattingly fired back after he was shot. So his use of force, firing back towards Kenneth Walker, hitting Breonna Taylor, it's all going to be legally justified. Not even really a good argument, right? He had a legal basis to be in her apartment. It was signed off on a warrant by a judge. How he did it, whether he really knocked, who knows? Based on this, if he thought he was taking down evil, maybe he said he knocked, but he didn't really knock. Maybe he didn't follow protocols exactly the way that he should have. We don't have any body cameras. We don't know. We have an independent witness who's a neighbor who said, yeah, he heard him knock or announce. But, the New York Times reporter says she didn't. She interviewed everybody in the apartment and nobody heard anything. So are we going to trust this guy's word? I'm not going to take his word for it. This rant of an email is, sounds like potentially even, a drunken kind of rant that somebody's just firing off at 2 a.m. because they're angry. I think very ill-advised, but not the ideal officer. So he goes in, he fires back. He's justified to be there, whether we trust him or not. He's justified to be in her apartment. He gets shot. He fires back. He hits Breonna Taylor. That case is basically going to be self-defense, or Breonna Taylor is caught in the crossfire of a lawful shooting, which is a tragedy, but it's not murder. And that is what people are upset about. Now, this guy does not sound like an officer that I would particularly want on the street at all, but he's very upset about it.